What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Wagon Pullers, episode 11. We're excited to be back in here recording. I got a special guest today. I want to introduce David. David is with a company called Novus Global, right?
Yes.
And I found him through a mutual friend.
Yeah.
And I was just looking for some coaching, and anybody that's been tapped into the podcast, you know the journey I've been on personally. That was like the first 4 or 5 episodes. And I just wanted somebody that could come along and really help take me to that next level as a man, help draw things out of me that I don't see. Just in our few months together, like, I've had a lot of traction just with our Zoom calls. David's out from Colorado to be on the pod, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, heck yeah.
He's going to spend the day here at the shop, and also he is going to lead our men's group that I have every Tuesday night here at the shop called Level Up. It's a faith-based men's group, and David's going to be speaking there tonight. So rather than David come in and share his actual testimony, I've got a list of questions series, just got a well of I don't want to say information, just like of probably empowerment inside of him through his language that I got some questions here, and I want to pull it out, and just I'm excited for everybody that's listening to this. I'm excited to be sitting here with him and just the value that this conversation is going to add to both of us.
Yeah.
You know, every time we talk and everybody listening. So, welcome everybody, and welcome David. Why don't you give a quick intro?
Yeah.
On top of that, like, just kind of a few minutes, like what you do and how long you've been doing it. And
so quick background on me is, so I've been coaching for 15 years, and I joined Novus Global about 10 years ago. And when I joined, there was 6 of us, which was really fun. And so I've been a huge, like, just the 6 of us putting it together and building it and seeing what works and what doesn't. And that's really cool. Right now we're at about, I think this is like 74 coaches that we've built it to. And we're going to grow it to 200 this year, which is really going to be fun. And then background wise, like Midwestern, born and raised. My dad was in the military in the Air Force. And so growing up in the Air Force, moving every 2-3 years of my life, it was really tough at times, but I look back and I'm really grateful for it because it really kind of broke me of the idea that I couldn't do something because I just was forced to, right? I was forced to get out of my comfort zone at a very young age on a consistent basis. And so I think that all, in a lot of ways, prepared me to get into coaching, and then been doing it for 15 years and love it and cannot wait for the next few decades of life. And then as we'll get into a little bit, one of the other things that I do is I lead lion tracking expeditions in South Africa. And so I'm always clear, we're not hunting, we're just tracking the lions to be out on foot, out of the vehicles and on foot with the experience of what it's like to be like on the same level as these animals. So there's no vehicle protecting us, no fences. We're literally just out there in the wild, and it's so serene because when you're tracking, it's really quiet. You don't talk because you're trying to be stealthy. You're like not be heard or seen. And so you get hours out there in the wild just to yourself, which is for me one of those beautiful things. And so I go myself sometimes, and I also take groups of people. I can take like 3 or 4 people at a time, essentially, that want to go really experience 6-7 days out in the wild and just be out there. And so I love that, and we'll weave some of those stories in because, as you can imagine, it is still very much the wild. And so stuff happens, and so there's you never quite know. But for me, it was all about. We'll get into this too more, but just the energy of the lions and like the wild. Just energy that they have just had a huge impact on my life at a very pivotal point in my life, and helped me remember what it was like to be like that. So
yeah, we'll make sure during this talk to pull out. David's got some really cool principles that he shared with me on this lion tracking. Just casual. I don't know what you guys do on the weekend, but David tracks lions. I remember when he first told me, I'm like you really go and track the lions, like, with guns, and he's like, no.
No.
Just with a guide.
Yeah, I mean, there's two guides that do have a gun,
Yeah.
but the goal is not to use the gun. It's to just be with them.
Yeah, and there's some dynamics. We're going to save that. So
yeah.
Stay with us. Well, let's dive in, man.
Yeah.
I'm stoked to be here with you.
Heck yeah.
We kind of want to go like foundation,
Yeah.
like get into some of your background. So question I have for you is what season of your life shaped you the most, and not in a glamorous way?
Yeah.
Real quick before you answer that, David's tapped into the Wagon Pullers podcast, and if anybody is here for the first time listening, the whole theme of Wagon Pullers is like, what's your story?
Yeah.
You know, like what can you share that can add value to somebody listening? And I've typically found some of the most empowering conversations come from people sharing about their vulnerabilities, their hard times, and how they got to that next season of their life.
Yeah.
And they got through things that could have potentially just stopped them.
Yep.
So
yeah, for sure. Well, so the you said, how do you frame it?
What,
the most
what
pivotal
season of your life shaped you the most?
Yeah. So for me,
because you're 43.
43.
Right?
Yep. And the season that shaped me was definitely the last. I mean, I could pick different moments in life that shaped me, and I would say, but by far the last 5 to 6 years have shaped me a lot. And so I went through a pretty heartbreaking divorce about 5 years ago, and so it was something I didn't expect to have in my life, and just the quick story of it, I would say, is I got married pretty young, and
How old were you?
I was 27. My wife was 23 at the time, and so about 5 years ago, she just went through some pretty big shifts in her life, and for whatever reason came to a conclusion that we'd gotten married too young and we'd evolved, and she was just pulling the plug on it. And so she was like, hey, I'm out. And I don't see this as being my future. And so really heartbreaking for me. And so I spent, just to jump right in the deep end, I had 6 to 12 months.
How long are you guys married?
We were married for 10 years. So I spent about 6 to 12 months in what's called suicidal ideation, which is not that I was trying to figure out a way to commit suicide, but it was like this feeling of like I just wanted to not wake up, and so I'd go to bed and just want to just pray that God would like take me in the night and not wake up. And then I remember I'd wake up and my eyes would open, and I'd kind of like, oh man, like I got another day of this. And didn't know how to get through, and it just, as I studied a bit of it, and luckily I found myself upon just like some just incredible therapists where I can share a number of stories from those things where almost like the hand of God was in the midst of it the whole time, of like what I needed is like a guide or a mentor or somebody to hold me in this season of life. And luckily I just had people that just kind of get me, another step along the pathway of it. But yeah, I just remember so many times just, how am I going to get through another day of this? I don't know how I'm going to do this. And my brain was just spinning and my emotions were spinning. And you have these moments, or I had these moments where it just, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. It literally is just this belief, like this will never get better. And that is like, I think one of the biggest, challenging things that people that are listening, if you've ever been through like a season of depression, know that feeling of like, it's like the tunnel just, it's dark and it never ends. And that was a very difficult time. So that would be like the non-glamorous, the season of life that shaped me the most, I would say. Yeah.
How would you say, like, if you could summarize how it shaped you, was it because you leaned into your pain rather than found a vice to numb it?
Yeah.
Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So very much leaned into it. And one of the things at the time I had come upon, or actually over the last, like I would say maybe decade or so, I learned a lot about Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. And so if people haven't heard of Joseph Campbell, he's, to my understanding, responsible for essentially the story arc of all, like any Hollywood movie. Like any screenwriter understands Joseph Campbell's work, because the story arc, like he was incredibly influential in like the Star Wars story arc, for example. And there's a really great documentary called Finding Joe, which I watched it one time, and it just, some of his like one-liners just blew me away about like shifting how you see the world. And so, for example, one of his things in that movie, I'll just say it and then I'll kind of get back into my story, is he said, so for so long we believed that like the point of life is like we have to defeat our dragons, is what he phrases it as, is like, so if something that I, like for me, it was anger, for example. So for most of my life, I really struggled with anger and could never quite understand it. And I'd spent 3.5 decades trying to defeat my anger, like beat it, right?
And anger, the metaphor for your anger would be the dragon?
Yeah. So
that's how you refer.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So the dragon's my anger, and I got to defeat my anger, right? That's how a person transforms. And it never worked for me. I tried everything in terms of like, I'm going to defeat this thing, and just nothing ever worked. And in that documentary, he talks about, what if the point of life is not to defeat our dragons, but to learn to dance with them? And that shift, I literally remember I started crying, because it was the first time I'd ever seen that, like, what if I could learn to befriend my anger and like dance with it? And I was like, I'd never heard that type of thing before. And so anyway, so that's, we're kind of weaving around. You'll see how my brain does this, right?
Say a few things about that. What does it look like to dance with that?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things for me is that I heard this quote, and I'll weave this in, but I heard this quote recently where it said, we're not victims of circumstance, we're a victim of our own perspective. So we're not victims of circumstance, we're victims of our own perspective. And what happened in that moment when I was watching that documentary was a massive perspective shift. So the anger was still there, right? So the circumstance was still there. I still had the anger, but my perspective of the anger shifted from I need to defeat this thing to I need to learn to dance with it. And for me, so the thing, we oftentimes, I think I find that I wanted to like distance myself from my anger because I was judging it as like wrong or bad or broken or terrible or whatever it is. And Joseph Campbell's philosophy has a lot more to do with moving towards it. And I'll, to weave this in with like going through the divorce, when I was going through the suicidal ideation, is I realized that if I attempt to run from the darkness, it tends to like envelop me. That was the experience. When in the moments when I was trying to run from it, it was like it just was like this cloud that surrounded me. But then when I ran into the darkness was when I started to feel a little bit of light. And it just kind of blew my mind. And so when it comes to learning to dance with your dragons or dance with your anger, in my case, was to actually move towards it. And then through incredible therapy and coaching that I had at the time, as I moved closer to it, you get to have a more intimate relationship, and you actually get to understand of like, hey, what is it you're angry about? What's going on there? And typically anger, what's behind anger is almost always fear. So one of the best questions if somebody's wrestling with anger, if I'm coaching them, is I'll say, hey, like, what are you afraid of? Like, what are you really afraid of right now? And
like, because anger is a secondary emotion.
Yeah, it's like a secondary emotion. Yeah, to fear. And so
you're staying curious about
the
anger.
Yeah, it's staying curious about the anger, staying curious about the fear, and having so much compassion because that anger and fear was born somewhere. It was born somewhere in your life because of some sort of circumstance or whatever it is. And every person's a little bit different. But there was something where like that fear got sparked, and then it creates the anger because it feels like it's just like powerlessness a lot of times. So that's where for me, so with dancing with it was, how do I become more intimate with my anger and with my fear? And I realized I couldn't become intimate with it if I was judging it. So if I'm sitting there judging myself for being angry and afraid, you can't have intimacy. Like you can't have judgment and curiosity happen at the same time. And so once I realized I could get, this is where I can get emotional, is I used to judge like inner child work so much in my life, right? I was like, that stuff's stupid, but who cares about the past? It's all about the future and what we're creating. And I was like hard-nosed on that. I actually had a couple of coaches at different points in my life that was their philosophy, and they were like mentoring me. And then when I went through the divorce, like I had
real quick, just to keep
yeah.
everyone touched in, inner child work.
Yep.
Quick definition of that.
Yeah, so inner child work, and I'll say just from my own experience, I'm not a therapist, is where you basically go back and you really try to you really work at tapping into what was it like to be a kid going through certain things. Now that you're an adult and you have a different perspective on life, going back and experiencing something as a kid. And so that can happen a number of different ways. It can be like just talk therapy. It can be some sort of somatic therapy, which is therapy that helps you get in touch with your body and like what it really felt like to be a kid and how it felt in your body. And that's, again, there's like, we could go for hours on that alone. Yeah. You can also do like visualizations. I just want to give
people like a quick little window.
Absolutely.
Into that. Like it's almost basically like your family system of origin, like how we grew up has shaped us as adults.
Yes.
Good or bad.
Yep.
And there's like science behind it.
Yes.
So it's almost not even like whether you agree with it or not.
Yeah, it's
like
there.
Your actions are telling you different.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, go ahead. I just want to
No, for sure. I love that. Yeah, I love the pause on that. So and so there's where's that there with so in some ways I realized when I started doing some inner child work, I realized how much I judged the 6, 7, 8-year-old version of myself. And I had a lot of judgments of myself as being like weak and spineless and not tough enough or whatever it is. I remember as I started doing that work, I realized how much I judged him. And
as an
adult, like looking back, I was like, oh, that kid was kind of pathetic, or whatever it was. And it wasn't all bad judgments. Like I knew I was always super caring, and I was like a big feeler, and so I had all these emotions that I didn't know what to do with. And so I could ride the highest of highs, if I'd hit a home run or, the girl went to the skating rink with me on a date. I was like, flying high. Skating rink, baby. And, but then
we just aged ourselves.
Right, well, we sure did. Bowling alleys.
Bobby Brown.
That's right, yeah. And so I could ride the highest of highs, but then I could ride the lowest of lows too. So what happened is I cried a lot because I felt so much of the world, but didn't know what to do with it, right? So if a girl would turn me down, or we'd go to the skating rink 3 times, and all of a sudden she didn't want to go with me, and the next week I see her there with another 12-year-old. It was so funny how in 3rd grade, I remember having the idea, like, I'm going to marry this girl. And her name was Jessica. Like, we're gonna get married,
I think a lot of us did that.
Okay, cool. I'm not the only one. Yeah. That's good to know. And so, anyway, so as in adulthood, as I realized I could dance with this anger, I could dance with whatever's going on, it actually started to help me go back to when I was 6, 7, 8 and stop judging him, and start to get really curious and compassionate towards him about, hey, what are you seeing in the world? And then, what was the craziest thing, Jeremy, and I don't know if I've shared this story with you or not, but it's in the book that I'm writing, or that I've written. It's coming out in April.
Plug it real quick.
Plug it, yeah.
That's listening.
Yeah, so I have a book coming out April 21st, 2026. The book's called The Lion Is You. The subtitle is Lessons from the Wild on Coming Alive Again. And it's all about the arc, essentially, of recapturing, I think, I think that we're born with this desire to be fully alive. And then life kicks us, things happen in life for whatever reason. And I think most of us end up losing that, and we become less wild and more tame. But I think there's a part of us that, or, less fully alive and more kind of blah. And I think that part of our journey of a lot of our lives is to recapture that fully alive version of us that we were as kids. And then, like, as adults, like, have a mature approach to it.
So good.
Yeah. So I had this visualization that happened when I was doing. I'm gonna pepper in so many different therapies I did, but one of the therapies that I found myself upon after the divorce was called breathwork therapy. And breathwork therapy was something I'd never heard of before. 5 years ago is when I discovered it, and it's this crazy experience where you actually just use your breath to tap deeper into yourself. Now, at face value, this sounds so stupid to me. I'm like, you're just breathing. Like, what's the deal with it? And so there's these different breathwork cadences that you can do that help you kind of tap deeper into your emotions or whatever. And the idea is, one of my favorite phrases about it is that breathwork doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you need. And so it's kind of a way of going into a breathwork session where you're just going to let go and see where your body senses it needs to go, your emotions sense they need to go. And so I remember having this breathwork session. It'd be like an hour and a half where we'd do, like, with my therapist, I'd spend like 15 minutes talking about what's going on, set an intention, go into the breathwork session for like 45 minutes to an hour, and then have a little bit debrief on the other side. And so I remember going into this breathwork session, and if you've never done it, it's hard to believe what the experience is like if you've never done it. And so you haven't, I highly encourage it and can recommend some people. But it's you pick a breathwork cadence of some sort that it gets you into a rhythm. And so the rhythm I was doing with this particular therapist was just literally what's called a connected breath. So you breathe in and breathe out without any pauses. So it's just there's like an intensity. Different breathworks have different intensities, but this one was just like a in through the nose, out through the nose, and it was. So you do that, and if you do that for 45 to 60 minutes, over time, what's weird is your body gets into
for that long.
Yeah, like you keep it going, and so it's at the first like 10 or 15 minutes, it feels like a lot of work because the first minute or two you're like fine, but then all of a sudden you're like 7, 8, 10 minutes, it starts to get tough, right? And I've done other modalities of breath work where the cadence is different, where you actually have the mouth open, which is wild, and your mouth gets super dry, and you're like, you're like trying to keep up with it. Yeah. But I did one on Sunday this last week where the cadence was like, so you're taking a big breath in and then just kind of like letting it fall out. And I had one of the most powerful, not the most powerful, but like I had a really great session on Sunday doing that for like 45 to 60 minutes. I had it was a point where in the breathwork session there was like my body was like vibrating, I don't even know how to. It doesn't make sense to me, but it was like literally like vibrating, and then it's like seems like it's like it accesses like some sort of part of your psyche that helps connect to things. So,
just to add something on that.
Yeah, please. Yeah,
I'm just thinking about, because you're describing some things you put in place when you're dealing with some of the deepest pain you've had in your entire life.
Yeah.
I mean, suicidal idealization, like, it doesn't get more worse than that.
Yeah.
Like wishing you'd die in your sleep.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking about how those times in most people's lives is when we will go to a vice.
Yeah.
Alcohol, sex, cigarettes, sugar, whatever. And I'm thinking how socially normal some of those things have become.
Yeah.
To where I'm sure there's somebody listening and they're hearing breath work and they immediately have a preconceived judgment on that.
Yeah.
But if I could just pause, and everybody listening or watching, I think the invitation is to get curious about different methods that actually bring benefits that seem so out of the box.
Yeah.
And almost like hippie or woohoo.
Yeah, totally.
Where if you really step back, and let's just pick on alcohol, because that's the quickest grab for pain.
Yep.
We're drinking something that gets us out of our prefrontal cortex. Is that accurate, right? To just remove like cognitive thinking.
Yeah.
And so that we don't feel.
Yeah.
And if you really think about that, like what that's doing, it's like we're taking in something to get our body to have a reaction. We don't really know how that's happening.
Yeah.
And my wording for it is like subpar at best.
Yeah.
But basically our body's having a response to something we're putting in it. So maybe we could be curious about some of the things that you shared today.
Yeah.
That seem, I personally hear, and it's like, I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah.
But what I'm finding even in my own journey with things I'm walking through is that it's the stuff that I stay curious about, that when I hear it, it's like, how's that going to bring relief, or how's that going to, and as I've stayed curious and embraced some of these principles and you're a believer.
Yeah.
So this isn't like some woo,
No.
It's like you're doing things practically that are having an impact on your nervous system. And I think it's cool it's like we're getting, this is my heart for this podcast, is that we could provide roadmaps.
Yeah.
Like no matter where somebody's at that's listening, there could be these pieces and these roadmaps that people can be like, oh, I can grab a hold of that. I can grab a hold of that.
Yeah.
Like there's a different way to get through life.
Yeah.
Like you said, where I don't have to, you said tame.
Yes.
Live tame.
Yep.
Where we live, we're playing it safe because everything has turned into just protect myself.
Yeah.
Where some of these things, these principles invite us into like, these are all these steps that when you work them collectively, like you can really help yourself come alive.
Yeah.
And live how God intended us to live.
Yeah.
With all these practical pieces, you know, it's not like, well, let's read more scripture and let's pray more. It's like, those are beautiful things, but
yeah,
I just love these conversations that we have as you're bringing, even in our coaching, you brought me into some of these very practical principles that to me are every bit spiritual.
Yeah.
Because we're spiritual beings. So I'm doing something in the practical that's impacting my life holistically.
Yeah.
So,
well, and the thing with the breath, what's interesting is, in the Old Testament, they talk about the word Yahweh, which and I mean, we may have talked about this, but I can't remember. But like the idea of Yahweh was the best, to my understanding. I heard a sermon on this one time where it was Yahweh was the word that the people could come up with for like God, like breath, like what Yahweh. It was like the sound of breathing. So when the idea that God is breath, and when I was doing a breathwork session one time, one of the things I came out of it with was like this idea that God is breath. And it was so interesting because at times I felt so distant from God, or like God was so distant from me. But then I was like, oh wait, God's breath. Like literally that was the word that the people gave for God. And so it was like this idea that like God's breath is in me all the time, and it's been with me the whole time, even though we're normally not conscious of it. And that's why I find that like, I'm like, wow, like what if this thing that's been with us the whole time, this like breath, can be so healing if we utilize it in certain ways, which is what breathwork modalities do, is they give you different ways to use your breath to tap in and heal. And I like, that's the best way I can describe it. Was like, I feel like I go meet God in the breath, and it's wild. Yeah.
So on that point, you made a comment earlier when we were talking in the office. You said that during this season, after your divorce, you said you were mad at God.
Yeah.
Like, can you get into that a little bit? And like how you resolved that? Like, what were the initial feelings towards him? And then what did you do to reconcile that?
Yeah, I would say it was a lot of things. It was, I went through, and we talked about this, but I went through, and I'll just dive in it. But like I went through, there's a lot of things that happened post-divorce. Not only like there was the divorce, but there was about 5-6 months in, I feel like my whole body shut down. We talked about this. Did we talk about this at all in our calls?
Probably, but
we
haven't talked about it on the mics.
Yeah, we're about to.
Talk about it on Wagon Pullers.
Yeah, so I'll go into it. And there's a chapter in my book on this that I actually wrote the chapter in such a way that I could have pulled it at any time, because I was like, this is the stuff I'm scared to share with the world in some ways. But basically, and luckily I studied a lot of this stuff afterwards, but basically my whole body shut down, and what I would say is like my vitality shut down. And it felt like I had no life in me. And so just to be more explicit about it, it's like I feel like this feels so vulnerable to say, but I feel like the sexual part of me shut down. And I mean that like more holistically, not just like the desire for sex, but like my whole system. It's okay if I talk about this stuff on the pod?
Oh, bro, we talk about it.
Okay. I was like, okay. It's just like, you're giving me a look, and I'm like, okay.
That wasn't a look. That was just like, I'm with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that, and I want to say this a lot because I think we don't talk about this in society very much. And so that whole kind of vitality, let's call it, like shut down for me. And I didn't know, like it was like, it felt like the whole bit of me that was masculine or whatever was just gone. It like flatlined. And so not only I'd gone through this divorce, I'm going through this heartbreak, but now like the whole life of me feels like it's gone. And so I was trying to like understand like what's going on, like why is this happening? And so one thing that happened, which I'm just leaning into the vulnerability here, but I had taken like a hair loss drug for like 9 months that had side effects. And one of the side effects can be what I was experiencing. And apparently in some of like very small, like, man, I can't believe I'm saying this stuff on a podcast.
Brother, I've already gone first on here,
and I'm a pretty vulnerable guy, you know. So like in a very small percentage of people that take it, apparently the side effects are like permanent. And that was what I think pulled me into the suicidal ideation, because that was like the darkness that was so heavy, was like, what if this is permanent and my vitality never comes back? And so I was like just swimming in this like darkness of like, oh my God, like nothing's ever going to change here. And then as I talked to different practitioners, they were like, hey man, just so you know, like it could have been the drug you took and the side effects of that, but it also, like what you've been through does throw your entire body, your hormones, everything into a total mess. And so I started actually reading about that, and that was actually really helpful, because I learned that like when you go through something traumatic like this, your body prioritizes what survival is over frankly just like sex, right? Sex is not needed for you to survive. Obviously to procreate it is, but it's not needed for survival. So what happens is when you're going through something really difficult in life, there's a lot of times where certain parts of your system just go offline, because your system has so much resource to like put into surviving. So it's like, so basically my system just said, hey, we need to keep you alive. So we're going to like let the vitality part of you like shut off for now, because we don't have enough energy for it. And so once I started reading about that, then it was like, okay, cool. Like maybe this thing's going to come back. Right. But I'll be frank with you. It was like 2 to 3 years before I felt like the full vitality system like in my life came back. And it was like, so I was like in this place where my brain was spinning of like, did this drug that I took, did I totally like screw my system over forever? Or is it like from the trauma, from the divorce and everything I went through with that, or not? And so I went through this, I was going through the spin, and that's what threw me into the suicidal ideation. And what was interesting though is in that moment, luckily I had there's amazing therapist I was working with at the time, and she said, and it was so beautiful, she said, David, I think that this is all happening. Because in my mind, I was like, I just wanted to deal with a divorce and like work through that heartbreak. I can't handle like another huge thing. And she said to me, she said, this is going to be a portal to your deeper healing. And I was like, what does that mean? You know, I was like, what, you know, and she's like, I think that God knows you could have handled the divorce and the heartbreak. Like you would have been like, fine, you'd work through it. You know, you're going to make it, but that wanted to double down, like, because you're going to explore different things than you would have explored before. You're going to go deeper into your own self because of this, because you're a person who's just, you're going to find your way through it. And that I didn't quite understand what she was saying, but a few years later I did, because the things I explored in those few years, because I was like, I have no option. Like I want to be dead. So like, I'm going to explore this. Like different therapies or whatever it was that I was doing. Well, and what I will say is, just for people that might be listening and wondering, none of that up until this point in my life has involved any sort of plant medicine. So I just want to kind of like, you know, I feel like the world today, it's like, there's just like a buffet of like different things. So what I'll say is I did, you know, breathwork therapy, equine therapy. I did talk therapy, somatic therapy, nervous system therapy, what's called interfamily systems therapy. I did like all these different therapies in order for me to explore the deepest whatever I needed to find. And a lot of stuff I don't think I would have explored because it's really intense stuff. I did some pretty intense like men's embodiment work, stuff like that, like really intense stuff that I think contributed to my to healing that I wouldn't have explored otherwise. And that's what she meant when she's like, this is gonna be a portal to your healing, because you're not gonna stop at anything to like get to the bottom of this and what you need to discover about yourself and about God and about the world and all this stuff. And so I can't remember what question you asked that got me to that point, but
No, you're tying into it. It's what were you mad at God about? So it sounds like initially it was because all this stuff's happening.
Yeah.
And then how did you, like, what was a pivot point that resolved that where you corrected your perspective on him?
Yeah. So what was I mad about God at? Part of it was the divorce. Then it was what I just described in terms of everything in my system shutting down. And I was angry. I told you there was a point where I was doing like 3 ice cold showers a day simply because it boosted my dopamine 250%. And I'd have like an hour and a half of like feeling somewhat normal before I'd drop back down into like suicidal ideation.
So it was dark.
It was dark. And then I had dated someone for about 2.5 years on and off that I wanted it to work so bad. And for whatever reason, it just wasn't quite working. And I think it was because I was just like so deep in everything. I just couldn't make sense of it. And I so badly just wanted like God to like let this one thing work in my life, right? Because I was like, this is all in my book, but it was like I think what I realized in some ways. Well, let me not get to the punchline yet. So I wanted that to work because it felt like such a safe place to land, and I think that we all crave that in life. And so I've got those 3 things happening where it's the divorce, the body shuts down, then this relationship's not working out that I desperately want to work out. And so I am so mad at God. And so then, the story I was telling you earlier was, so then I'm a couple weeks after the final breakup with that woman, I just want to do an ice bath. And partly it's because frankly, sometimes I would, if I'm honest, I used ice baths to punish myself. One time I did like 37-degree water for 14 minutes, which was probably very unsafe. And it took my body like 4 hours to like come back to normal. Like it was like, I was like, almost like went to the hospital. It was, again, I'm just like, but it was like, sometimes when you're in pain, I wanted to force myself to feel pain. And so I think I would use ice baths sometimes to like just effort my way through things. Cause that was a theme of my life, was like, I could effort, like I did an Ironman one time on 5 months of training, which
you're like, I'll white knuckle.
I'll white knuckle this thing. Right. And I realized so I was basically trying to white knuckle my healing by like, one of the versions of it was like, if I just get mad enough at God, maybe I'll heal or something like that. I don't know what it was. So I was trying to do so many therapies and so many different things, and ice baths and, lifting heavy weights. I was just trying to like white knuckle my way through my healing. And so you asked about like a pivot point in that. And I think it was, so a few weeks after I'd had my final breakup with this woman, I was going to do an ice bath with my brother. And so we got all the ice, we got the tub filled up and everything like that. We get the water down in like the high 30s, something like that. And I get into the water, and normally it'd be like a minute or 2, minute and a half maybe, where my body would surrender and let like to the water. And it was this weird thing that would happen where I felt like my body would relax and it would just realize, okay, this water's not going to kill me. It's actually going to help me, and it's great for inflammation, all these things. And so I get into the water and I'm just so angry. I'm just beyond angry. I'm like, can we swear on this podcast?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm at this point. I'm just.
I don't mean oh yeah, but
sorry. Yeah. I mean
you can talk.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do.
Okay. Great. So I'm at this point, and people listening probably have been there at points where I'm just like, fuck all of this. Like, fuck God. Fuck this stupid world. Like, what is happening? Like, this is such bullshit. And I know, like, whatever. People have their own things and what they're in. But I was just like so sad, angry, rage. Everything's going on inside of me, and I'm in the water. And a minute goes by, 2 minutes go by, 3 minutes go by, 4 minutes go by, and I'm just like fighting it. Like my body's not surrendering like it does in the first minute or two. And I'm just, at one point, I think it was like 4 or 5 minutes in, I can't remember exactly because I tell the story in the book too, but, and I just let myself let out this like couple of like just crazy screams. I was just like screaming, angry. My brother's standing there probably wondering what's going on. And after I screamed a few times, I hear the voice of one of my therapists in my head saying to me, and what she'd said to me a handful of times was she had said, like, surrender is the only way. Like, you cannot white knuckle your way through this. Like you've white knuckled your way through an Ironman, you've white knuckled your way through like restarting a business or whatever it is, but you like you can't do that here. And she talked about one of the other therapies that she had taken me through called polyvagal theory. And the whole idea of polyvagal theory is a lot about that, is you actually have to surrender in order to return to a homeostasis or return to like a good place in life. You can't white knuckle your way through it. And so I heard that voice in my head of like, David, surrender's the only way. And I fought it at first, and I fought it and I fought it. I'm sitting there in the ice water and I'm just like, fuck this, like, no, I will white knuckle my way through this. I don't fucking care what it takes, kind of thing. But I kept hearing the voice, and it was almost like I began to surrender like a breath at a time. And it was like, I felt all this resistance in me to like, it shouldn't be this way, but whatever, all this stuff going on. And I just kept taking a breath, and just like my system started to finally relax. And I think that was a pivotal moment with God, because it was like, oh, like surrender is the only way. And I found that to be just beautiful metaphorically, is that I can't force my way through this. I can't effort my way through this. I have to let go. And then I let go, and then like that's when the water stopped feeling so frigid, and it just like let go into it. And then you got a follow-up question to that, but I can't remember what it was.
Well, I actually had a new one just come to me.
Okay.
And it's funny, I get all this written out and
Yeah.
I just go out. It's like, I'm thinking right now, why is, in your opinion, how is that safe with God, surrender? How did that become safe? And how did that reconnect you with him? Because it's the opposite of performance.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's, for me, I haven't thought about this, but it's, we talk a lot about in the coaching work about doing versus being. And performance is more the doing side, and then just being is just like the relaxed being side. And I think for me in that moment, it was, I can be, like, I don't need to do anything for God's love. I can just be in it, right? And so, and in fact, you can't actually do anything, right? And so I think there was this realization at that moment where it's like, this is really about how do you just be in it, knowing that there's nothing you can do to earn it. And it is just there. And that I think was what was happening in that moment.
And then there's a freedom in that place of needing all the answers of the whys.
Yeah.
Don't you feel like the whys set us up for the anger? Like, why is this happening? Why are you doing this?
Yeah, because it's not you can say why in two different ways, right? One is, why is this happening? And one is like a curious, curiosity. Like, I wonder why this is happening, right? Where you look into it and you look for like, what are you needing to learn through it? Which is very different than like, why is this happening to me? Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So is it safe to say pain has taught you more than success with your coaching?
Yeah. So many in so many ways. Yeah. That's very much so.
Mm-hmm. Why do we resist it then?
Why
do people think success is the answer?
Yeah, I think it's
pain. It's a theme. If you talk to people that have done work, pain has been the teacher.
Yes, I think people resist it because we just tend to resist discomfort for whatever reason, and until I learn to like embrace discomfort, that's when growth can be incredible. It's similar to the gym, right? So it's like if you go to the gym and you're comfortable the whole time, it's going to be represented.
You're probably not doing much.
Yeah, you're probably not doing much.
Yeah.
It's like but everybody that's done a tough workout knows the feeling after a tough workout, how good it feels. You almost have more energy. Sometimes you might be like somewhat physically tired, but you're amped, you're energized after a good workout.
Yeah.
And I think it's similar to that. And so I think people just resist it because, similar to one of the quotes earlier of, we're not a victim of circumstance, we're a victim of perspective, is we're a victim of the perspective that pain is bad all the time. Now, some pain is whatever, but like generally speaking, like when it's like, with what you've built here at Shine Supply, there's been a lot of pain along the way of like taking risks and wondering this, and maybe you wonder if you're gonna be able to make payroll or whatever, you've went through in some of those early days. And then as you like maybe take a leap or you build a building out or whatever it is, like, it's like there's all these risks that involve pain because you don't know how it's going to go. And I think people oftentimes are pre-wired, like one of the functions of the brain is to predict and protect. And so it wants certainty in the future, or at least it thinks it wants certainty. But then it was interesting is, I remember saying to a different therapist one time, I was like, I just want to know, like, if I'm going to get married and have kids and it's all going to work out, right? And she just looked straight at me and she goes, is that why you track lions in Africa? It's because you want certainty? And everything hit me. And because she was like, you can pay $30 and go to the zoo down the street and you can get a guarantee of seeing lions, but you go halfway across the world, 10,000 miles away, literally 10,000 miles from Denver. I go tracking lions, and she goes, there's no guarantee there. You're literally in the wild. There's no fences. There's no vehicles. You're walking out in, blocks of land that are 9 by 9 miles. And there might be lions in there, right? And even if they're in there, you don't guarantee you'll be able to find them. And so she goes, you love uncertainty. And I was like, yeah, I guess I do. She goes, you don't want to know if you're going to get married and have kids or not. Like, you don't want to know that. She's like, if I could give you a book with everything that's going to happen the rest of your life down to any question you wanted to ask, what would you do with it? I said, I'd burn it as fast as I could.
Do you think certainty sets a lot of people up for disappointment?
Yeah. Because I don't think people actually want certainty. I think it's a lie. I think people have conned themselves into thinking they want certainty.
Because they think certainty is safety?
Yes. They think, and then we have a preconceived idea of what we want as certainty in the future. And what that doesn't allow for is, what if God has something more for you? So it's like, I'd rather take the certainty that I think I can have rather than the uncertainty of what could be absolutely amazing and bigger than I could ever imagine. And so I think that, but I think it's just all wrapped in like the safety, the predictability, like that we think that we want. Now, I'm not saying we don't want any, right? Like I want to know that, when I go to my friend's house tonight, like there's gonna be a bed for me to lay down in, and when I fly home tomorrow, that's gonna, like I want to know the plane's gonna not fall out of the air.
Yeah, like the obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I think, like with whatever you're gonna do with Shine Supply in the next decade, I think, like embracing the uncertainty is, man, I have no idea what this thing could become. And maybe it's Shine Supply, maybe it's the men's group, maybe it's whatever. But it's just like, man, like what if this could impact the world more than I could ever imagine? And you embrace that uncertainty versus the uncertainty of just like, doing everything super safe.
Do you feel like it keeps us more present? We have more peace when we're present? Because the certainty can tend to keep us out in the next step.
Yeah, certainty, you get lost too much in the future. And then you're not actually here in the moment with like whatever might be wanting to be here. Like humans, as humans, we spend, for people listening, and I'll say this to myself too, it's like, think about how much time we spend not being here.
I think more than ever nowadays.
Yeah. So it's like, whether it's social media or something else, it's like we spend so much time just trying to not be here. And here is the only thing we like have. Like, it's like, we're in this room right now. I can't be anywhere else.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
You coach a lot of professional athletes, and I know some of them are early 20s.
Yeah.
Some of these guys have not faced a lot of adversity, like we're talking about.
Yeah.
What do you find is, or what is some of the best advice you've given some of these young guys that are facing adversity for the first time?
Excuse me. So what I would say is, gosh, that's a good question. Because I feel like with each client, it's so.
Yeah, it wasn't on my deal either.
No, it's great. It's great. In the coaching work we do with athletes is so what we call inquiry based. So it's not like advice giving as much. It's not like, hey, do this and this and this. There's some of that involved just because like life experience. But I think the question was, what's the best advice? The thing that I like to, one of my favorite routes to go with them is that they.
Or let me actually back you up. Let's make this even fuller.
Great.
What's one of the biggest issues you see that it's created in them that they have not had adversity, had a lot of adversity, and then what's the piece of advice that you give them?
Yeah.
Like, what's it created in them? Yeah.
Oh man. What's the biggest thing that they face because they haven't had as much adversity?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, what's the biggest challenge that has posed in them, in their life, in their character?
Yeah. The thing I would say, and they probably have faced more adversity than I've shared before, just because it's a different type of adversity when you're a young athlete and like, you're pretty good and you have a shot at making the NHL or, big leagues or whatever it is. So what I'd say is that they don't know what they don't know about their mental and emotional capability. And so a lot of times we live life based on what we've seen in the past or what we've kind of gathered there. And we're not thinking because there's this whole realm of the world, and this is what I work with clients so much on, is there's a realm of the world that you know. There's I know what 2 + 2 equals 4, right? Then there's a realm of the world that you know that you don't know. Like, I know that I don't know how to fly a plane or detail a car very well.
You're learning now.
I'm learning. But then there's this whole realm of the world that you don't know that you don't know. Mm. And it is one of the most fun parts of the world to like dabble in with clients. And, we talked about line trekking, for example. It's like when I first got into line trekking and being out on foot, I didn't know what I didn't know about it. Like I had this working assumption that if I was on foot and lions saw me at whatever distance, I don't care if they're hundreds of yards away and they can see me, I can't see them, that they're just going to come take me out and eat me, And then what I didn't know that I didn't know is that lions actually have a pretty predictable behavior, and they, generally speaking, don't want anything to do with humans. They don't have to do with you. You're like an alien out there to them, and so. That was just a weird thing. So with the athletes, I'd say that once they realize that they don't know what they don't know about the capacity of their minds and bodies to perform, the whole world opens up to them. Because before that, they've had a predictable idea of like, here's what I could do this year, next year. And I won't say specifics, but I just had a client recently who, thought he'd be like on an average contract for most of his career. I think was like, oh, I'm a good player. I'll be in the league. I'll make X amount, average amount of money each year. And then he just ended up signing like a blockbuster deal for a long-term contract, which is a kind of a big deal. And he did, what I would say is he most likely didn't know what he didn't know about how good he could actually be in his first few years in order to get that. Because as a young player, when you get a longer contract, that means the team really believes in you. And you've got to demonstrate a lot of in that time frame, those first few years, in order to get the longer term contract. And so once they realize that their capacity is so, like, one of the things I say to them whenever I talk to a new potential client, I say, do you believe that every human is capable of more? And most times people, yes, I rarely get a no. And I say, do you agree that every human's getting in their way somehow? And they're like, yeah. Right? Say, great. Because if one of those is a no, then, that's what the work we do is, like, we expand capacity and figure out how you're getting in your own way. Or we create something in the future you want. We figure out how you're blocking yourself from it. And so once they realize I'm capable of more and I'm getting in my own way somehow, that can spark an immense amount of curiosity towards what they could, like, how mentally and emotionally strong they can be when they're playing.
So do you think some of the younger generation is, and not just, but just to kind of hone in on that age group and specifically, is it maybe the instant gratification has prevented them from staying curious, so they think they should be this and should be here, and I'm seeing other people with the perception that they're there. Yeah. And it's like this heavy weight they've taken on of I should be, I need to be.
Yeah. I'm 43 now, so I feel pretty distanced from like that younger generation in some ways about like what it's been like to grow up in a social media world.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have Facebook till I was in college, like the original kind of Facebook, MySpace, whatever, but like the more like, Facebook, Instagram was all like post college for me. But yeah, I think there is something to that of the, typically Instagram is all highlight reels of people's lives, not the real thing. And that's why I love your podcast. And I, wanted to talk through this stuff because I think it's a place to be raw where we can talk about the real stuff that's actually going on. And that is life, right? That is challenges with your partner. It is challenges with your kids. It is challenges with your business. And rather than just try to walk around as if like everything's going right in my life, which is really interesting that we ever get to that point. But yeah, I would say kids, younger generation is very much facing that. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is you to summarize what you would talk to your clients, or what we would tell like, that age group that's listening to this is to stay curious.
Yeah.
Obviously any age group, but
yeah,
that just became the topic, but just like stay curious about what you don't know, because that's where the breakthrough can be found.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. Like,
don't be afraid of that.
Yeah. Don't try to, how do I say, it's like just be really honest about what you don't know and move in towards it rather than pretending you do know everything. Because at some point you're going to get found out if you don't know stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And just to tie into that, you coach a lot of people.
Yep.
High-level people. You coached through this pain.
Yes.
You've been talking about.
Yeah.
Mind you, everybody listening.
Yeah.
You didn't quit.
Yep.
What's the dominant lie that people believe that you coach?
What's the dominant lie? I don't want to be too redundant because I remember reading this question and I was like, what hit me was, what came to me was the dominant lie is like that I know more than I think that I do. I would say it's a bit redundant with what we were just talking about, but it's like, it's this idea.
Amplifying that point.
Yeah. That was what hit me was like, I think I know more than I do.
I think I know, or even in my own life, I found some of my biggest roadblocks as a man is I think I should know.
Yeah.
Somehow I've created this thought process that I should know.
Yeah.
And I'm ashamed to say that I don't for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like instead of the invitation to stay curious, the shame is so loud of the fact that I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think I should. And I think a lot of that ties into me being a high achiever in a lot of areas in my life. I developed this almost subconscious thought process that I should automatically be a high achiever in every area of my life.
Yeah.
Where there's things that I have achieved that are natural talents, natural abilities, God-given giftedness. And then there's these other areas of weaknesses. And I put that pressure on me because I think it should just be a theme all through my life.
Yeah. Yep.
And
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that if there's a secondary one that kind of plays in with it, but it's I think there's a lie that people believe that there is a way this should all be going, and I know it. Like, and I'll not play with people, but I'll like challenge them when they think that they know something, and I'll just say like, "Are you God?" And they're like, "Well, no." And I was like, "Great. So who are you to say that like that thing shouldn't have happened, or that thing shouldn't happen in the future, or whatever?" Right? So like people think they have this formulation of like, here's how it should be going in my life, and then it's not going that way, and then that produces a lot of resistance to what's going on, rather than acceptance and welcoming what's going on and seeing that how could whatever is happening be God's perfect provision for my life. And back to your question about
pivot. The quote is, life. Quote. You said this to me and it's really impacted to me.
Yeah, so the quote is, life will present you with people and circumstances to reveal to you where you're not yet free. It's from a friend, not a friend of mine, but like
that gripped me.
Yeah, yeah.
And you took it a level further when we talked about it. You said God will present you with people and circumstances to reveal to you where you are not yet free.
Yeah.
And I've taken that as it's starting to become an invitation.
Yes.
Because when hard things are coming at me, it's like, and we talked about this in a session where you addressed my defensiveness.
Yeah.
And you're like, what if you stayed curious instead of getting defensive?
Yeah.
Like, what could happen if I stayed curious?
Yeah.
Where the circumstance is trying to reveal where I'm not yet free in order to get me free.
Yeah.
So what if the pain was a positive? And what if curiosity was actually what will empower me to get through it?
Yeah.
Where I'm only defensive, and you told me this in coaching, it was so good. You're like, you're defensive because part of whatever's coming at you, I believe it somehow.
Yeah. And I remember like there was a moment where I was a little bit worried about losing you as a client.
Really?
Yeah, because there's these moments with clients.
No, it was that day I was like, hit me again, man. Like,
yeah.
Because it was in my face, but it's like we've established that safety, and that was just one of those comments, these simple little comments, and that gripped me. It's like that's been a life-controlling issue in my life.
Yeah.
Is the situation might not necessarily be speaking to that direct truth, so I'm being defensive about that certain situation.
Yeah.
But it's tapping another inner belief system I have about myself, so I'm getting defensive.
Yes.
And I've been practicing this.
Yeah.
Practicing.
Yeah, right.
in circumstances and situations and conversations, and I'm starting to see the power play in it. Like,
yeah.
Just simply me staying curious and not getting defensive is keeping me from shutting down.
Yes. Yeah, I mean,
because my curiosity, to tie this into my spirituality, it allows me to stay connected with God, because he is always wanting to let me see these things so that I can stay in my truth and in my honesty.
Yeah.
And I can have growth, because I can't, and we can't have growth without truth.
Yeah. It's trusting, it's choosing to trust that not only should this not be happening, but it's choosing to trust that this is actually God's perfect provision for me right now. Like whatever, so people that are listening to this, and people probably want to fight us for a second, but just sit with it. But like, what if whatever is going on, all of it right now, is God's perfect provision for your life? And I remember I had a bit of an insight three months ago where the net result of it was I had realized, and I try not to swear too much, but like I realized that I was in resistance to some things in my life. And even as a coach who's been doing this for 15 years, partly I want to hear people to hear this, that like I'm still very much in process, and I'm learning things and growing, and I put myself in situations where I can learn and grow so I can be the best coach for other coaches, because I have a philosophy: you should never hire a coach who doesn't have a coach and is not getting coaching, because I think we're all in process. And so the net result of that insight that I had was realizing where in my life I'm not being a fuck yes to this, whatever it is, right?
I remember that day.
Yeah.
And I don't typically if I drop in an F-bomb, it's like everyone's like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. But I remember that day in particular, man, when you said that, I just dismissed the word, and I carried the weight.
The heck yes or whatever.
I carried the weight of what you said, and that's super empowering.
Yeah, because it's looking at whatever it is and it's going, yes, right? And the
stop resisting the pain and the pressure.
And move into
that God... I've never met a person that's leaned in like you that said, yeah, that was disappointing.
Yeah.
Like everybody that leaned in, and I think of the verse that says, God will use all things for your good.
Yeah.
According to those who are loved and called according to his good purpose. Mm-hmm. He'll work all things.
Yeah.
But the beauty of him allowing us to have free will, because we're not like puppets, that he's just...
Yeah.
I have to surrender, back to that word. Like I have to surrender to this process.
Yeah.
And I don't know why pain is the path, but I mean, especially us having a lot more life under us.
Yeah.
And I know Matt, that's our editor right here with us. It's like when we let pain teach us, and especially lean into God, which you get that empowerment that you cannot get through white knuckling. Like he comes and like breathes on that surrender piece.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it. Like what it does. And it seems like you're going to die.
Yes.
It's like we talked earlier, like it seems like I don't see how I can make it through this.
Yeah.
But we do, we will. And these little pieces are critical on how we get through it.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people go through pain and they survive and then they come out and nothing was developed in them. And they're bitter and resentful.
Yep.
And they have vices.
Yep.
Because they didn't like harness that pain to heal.
Yeah.
Like the fuck yes.
Yeah.
Excuse my language.
Yeah. But yeah.
It's like they didn't say like, yes, I will let this break me.
Yeah.
In order to like build me.
Yeah.
And it perfectly ties it into the working out metaphor. Like I put myself in pain to break my muscles down.
Yep.
And then they rebuild stronger.
Yep.
And it's exactly how our emotions work, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So good. I love how a lot of these were just answered in our dialogue. It's cool. As we kind of move towards wrapping up, some of these last questions I had for you on courage, fear, and just having an edge.
Yeah.
It makes me emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. I'm just thinking about a story you shared with me a couple weeks ago about tracking.
Yeah.
And you talked about how you were about 30 yards out from a lion, 2 lioness, and a cub.
Yeah.
And they're on a kill.
Yeah.
And 30 yards is pretty close.
Yeah.
And you're looking through the brush, just observing, and one of the cubs catch your energy that you're there.
Yeah.
And then the lioness come off the kill, the 2 female lions, and they spot you.
Yep.
And everybody listening, like, stay with this.
Yeah.
Because this has given me a peace in this season of my life that I'm just, like, clinging to. It's like God used this practical situation and the principle behind it, just it gripped me in a very powerful way. So the female lions pull off the kill. They spot you through the brush.
Yeah.
And David's telling the story. I'm like, what happened? Like, they're going to kill you. And you said, they spotted you and they started like,
yeah.
And it's at that point, most people run.
Yeah. I mean,
they don't stand there and stay curious.
Yeah.
And so tie this into everything we were just talking about, those of you that are listening.
Yeah.
David said, when I asked, what did you do? And he's like, we maintain our position and we let them know we're not a threat.
Yep.
And all they wanted to know was that you weren't a threat as well. Like, that's all they wanted to know. And they went back to, and it, to me, it gripped me on challenging relationships in life.
Yeah.
Where, as manly as we want to be, certain, especially close relationships in our life can pose the most threat at times.
Yeah.
For so many different reasons.
Yeah.
And my piece in that was like, if I can stop retreating, even if I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say, I don't know how to move forward, but if I could just not retreat and hold my position as a man and create safety, that caused them to feel safe as well, and they went back to their business. And that impacted me so heavy in the aspects of relationships. Yeah. And that's That's my piece. I hope all of you listening, like, you can pull from that, of just the power of staying present.
Yeah.
When everything in my system wants to go, when you talk about inner childhood, just like, it's like a 12-year-old version will pop up and be like, I know how to handle this. We're out of here. I'm going to get passive aggressive, or I'm going to close off, or I'm going to go through the motions. And that situation of that line tracking just blasted me, hit me right in the chest of like, hold your position. Yeah. Stay present. Because this person, all they want to do is feel safe as well. So you have two people afraid.
Yes.
Is that safe to say?
Yeah.
We could almost strip it all back.
Yep.
Like every bit of conflict in our life, you have two people looking at each other saying, am I safe?
Yep.
And I think as men, we have the opportunity to go first and be like, I will maintain position and create safety. And I think that's being a man.
Yeah, I'm not sure I could. I'm thinking about like things I could add to it. I think you're saying it so well and very practically. And I think that, part of that, maybe a little bit I would add to it is that I do think we're made for community. I really do. And I think a lot of our, vibrancy is created in that. And I think there's something beautiful because I think part of my ability to like show up and be that in relationship and be that in whatever is that I've done that work with me.
Yeah. Right.
Me and with God or whatever you want to call it. It's like I've done that work to be stable and grounded myself. And then, as I've studied a bit, and I don't know if this with the audience, but like the idea of like masculinity and femininity, I think there's some beautiful things we can take from like studies around that stuff. And one of the best things I've heard is that, the masculine's like the mountain and the feminine's like the storm. And the more that you can hold, kind of like with the lions you're talking about, is like the more you can like for me, I think most of my life, I didn't know how to be a grounded like mountain, if you will, metaphorically. And as I learned how to do that in the last number of years, it's not only like helped in relationships, friendships, whatever, it's helped me just with me. And that's one of the most I heard it said recently that, one guarantee is that you're going to be with you the rest of your life, right? You're going to be around for the rest of your life. And so one guarantee is that you're going to be with you, right? And I don't think I ever realized that you actually have a relationship with yourself. It's weird. But it is there. And the more that I can learn to be safe with me, to trust, I got this, whatever it is. And that might mean I fail at something and I still got me, right? So it doesn't mean all of a sudden life is just pure success here and there and everywhere. Then it allows me to show up with others that way because I don't need anything from somebody. I'm not trying to be better than them. I'm not trying to win an argument. I can be in a disagreement with somebody and maintain my composure because there's nothing to win or defend. It's just we're having a conversation about something, good. Right? Mm-hmm. And that's definitely what that moment with the lionesses taught me was how do you stay when you want to run and just stay ultra present, which in that moment it meant, I'm not taking my eyes off of these things because at some point they might charge, and I've had that happen 7 or 8 times where lions have charged at me. And then it ups the level of presence because you must stand, because if you do run, if you run when they're standing there, you're in trouble because they're going to chase you. But if they charge you and you run, they're going to keep running after you. But if you stand your ground, they'll run at you and stop. Mm. And it's the most mind-blowing experience that a 300 to 400 pound apex predator would run at a human, which they could easily dismantle. It's there's no chance. And they'll stop because, and I heard it said, they're afraid of your courage.
Wow.
And I was like, what? Wow. And I'm like, is there a simulator? Pilots can sometimes learn to fly a plane in a simulator. There's a simulator for this? There's no simulator for it. The first time it happened when I was out there, it's this is not a simulator. That is a wild male lion that's running at me, or a wild lioness that's running at me. And I have guides with me And it's weird how you can like draft off of the energy of the guides because they're so calm because this is like their life. They're out there. They understand the animals. They're so grounded and safe that sometimes I'll reach out and touch their elbow and I can just feel this like safety. And that's where I think the community part comes into it. But I think us developing that as men, yes, to like hold the space is a really powerful thing. Mm-hmm. And I want to get way deep into that kind of stuff, but there is a lot to learn from it for sure. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, as we kind of wrap up, that was an awesome thing to kind of leave everybody with.
Yeah.
I got a personal question for you, and then
Yeah.
and then we'll close it out.
Yeah.
Like actually towards me.
Yeah.
What made you say yes to coaching me? Because you know the dynamic. We don't need to get into it.
Yeah.
I'm not an athlete.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, there's a number of reasons that come up, and I'll just kind of pull what comes to mind for me. You know, one of the biggest things was I could tell you're willing to do the work. And that's one of the biggest things I look for when I'm talking with a potential client is, you know, I'd say to them like, hey, we're kind of we're interviewing each other right now. You know, mm-hmm. It's not purely a sales call. I'm not trying to hit a quota, right? Like I'm actually like when I take a client on, one of the biggest things I want to know is, are they willing to do the work? Like really willing to do the work? Because I understand after especially the last 5-6 years of my life, I understand what it's like to do the work. Mm-hmm. And I love like inspiring people and influencing them. And there's a point where I have to see in somebody there's like a willingness to go wherever they need to go in order to do the work. So I saw that with you, like so heavily, you know, even when it came to, you know, I sent you that video of me speaking at this, I was doing basically a dry run, a rehearsal for a talk that I had written. And I was doing it just to like 30 people at my company. And for people that are listening to this, I could give you the link, and if people want to see them, like this
that'd be cool,
right?
Yeah.
People can see, like
they're gonna be like, he's normal.
Yeah. So the punchline of it is, it didn't go well. Like I got up on the stage, I had practiced, rehearsed, and I literally forgot my lines. And I like it's something it was such a message that was so near and dear to my heart. I was like, oh no, and luckily I had my notes, so I'd like walk over, I'd look at my notes, think I'd drop into it, come back to the stage, start over, and forget my lines again. And right, that kept happening. So eventually I just pulled the notes over to like where
I'm gonna be honest, like everybody listening, it was hard to watch.
It's hard to watch.
I was like, that's next level.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
I walked into the pod, you know, I mean, even it's like, there's a little bit of nerves, but it's nothing. It's like, this is just being raw. That's like, you're up there giving a speech and you locked up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, I would have walked off.
Yeah, and it's never happened to me before. I thought it would happen.
Come back in, and they were like cheering. They're like, you got this.
Yeah, and I'm just, and I just kept, and so you're willing to, so what was big for me was that you watched that, and rather than be like, you know, what a loser, right? Because somebody could watch it and think that, I guess, that maybe.
Yeah, like, bro, I'm paying you to coach me?
And that's
you can't even get through a TED Talk?
Yeah, that's right. And that's
like, it's your amateur hour over here.
And that's the resonance that I look for, though, is like if somebody watches that and like, I want to work with that guy.
Yeah.
That's somebody I want to work with.
I thought the opposite.
Yeah, that's
because I felt like that's me.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's all about like being willing to get up there, and then you did that and you didn't quit.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, this is my guy right here. Like,
yeah.
I can, and I, who can't connect with that?
I don't. That's
we need to say
real.
that louder. It's like, that is real life. It's everybody's life, and we need to blow up the image of like, oh, this guy, he must be nailing it. He's writing a book. That's why I want to just instantly like peel it back and go deep with you, because there's so many people listening where they are being held back by their own belief system. Yep. They think it needs to be a certain way, or it's going to be perfect, or maybe they've tried and they failed and got some rejection. It's like everybody has dealt with that.
Yep.
And there's nothing, I mean, yes, you're a gifted man, and same here, but it's like there's nothing significant about the people that are moving forward, other than they're just still saying, fuck yes.
Yeah. Yes to this.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I think that, so a lot of that stuff, just like, it felt like there was a resonance between you and I, that like we needed to work together. And because you wanted to do the work, you wanted to go deep with yourself, and you wanted that to ripple. Like, one of the biggest things I ask clients is, I say, hey, well, if we're going to work together, you must be committed to a vision that requires other people to accomplish it. Yeah. I don't want to just coach a single person on their vision. I want it to, I want your family calling me being like, man, like, this is amazing what's happening with Jeremy, whatever it is. Like, I want that because I want to ripple throughout everybody that you touch, the podcast, whatever. Like, my dream is that, and you've already gotten letters about how this has helped marriages and people's faith, and like working through hard stuff. And so I saw the potential of, man, the more that you go deep, the bigger the ripple is going to be, and the more impact of people that are going to resonate with your story, and it's going to give them hope. And a lot of times, I think I remember how it's exactly said, but it said, like, your journal of going through hard times can become other people's field guide for getting through it.
Wow.
And that's
that, like, describes the pod.
Yeah, that's the pod, right? And like, that's my dream for the book, is that people go deeper because they read it and listen to the podcast and things like that. And that's why I took you on.
Cool, man.
Yeah, man.
Well, it was awesome having you out here. Where can people connect with you if they want to?
Yeah, I'd say the place I'm most active is Instagram. So my Instagram is just David Gerber. If somebody wants to come out on foot with lions with me, I promise it's mostly safe. I mean, I do hire world-class people to be out there with us, so we're not out there with just me. We've got usually one tracker and two guides that do carry rifles. Most of the guides I've been with have been out for decades and never used they never have to use the rifle, because they understand the animals so well. So the idea is avert danger before it happens, but it's the most enlivening experience. So if you want to do that, my website's davidagerber.com. The specific URL for the lion tracking is experiences.davidagerber.com. And then I pop around on LinkedIn from time to time, but generally Instagram is probably the best place.
And when does your book come out?
April 21st. Assuming all things go well. It's on track right now, and we're pretty late in the game.
Where will that be available?
It'll be available on Amazon.
Nice.
It'll be available depending on when this comes out. I'll have very shortly. I'll have a website up for it, so we can. It'll be on my website. There'll be a tab for it. People can pre-order it there.
Cool.
Yeah, man.
Well, thanks again, everybody listening, watching. I appreciate you guys being with us. Let's keep pulling that wagon. Let's keep embracing the challenges and the pain that life is bringing across our path. Let's not push it away to the side. Let's embrace it. You've heard another testimony this morning of somebody that stayed the course with something they felt called to right in the middle of pain. So it's possible. Let's keep pulling. We'll see you guys next time.
All right.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, man. You bet. All right. Yeah. We did it. Heck yeah. We did it.